Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast, where we're previewing a Grade 1 weekend again between Ireland and Haydock. We'll come to that and start with the Betfair Chase very shortly. But a reminder that it is Safer Gambling Week, first of all. That's the most important thing this week, 17th to the 23rd. And we encourage you to bet safely, bet responsibly. There are helplines out there if you feel you have an issue. Important to talk about safer gambling. We approach it that way on the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast across all of Matchbook platforms. I won't put up bets for no reason. We're really focusing on races where we are having a bet. And if we don't fancy anything, we won't put anything up. That's always been something we stand by. And we wanted to touch on the fact that it is Safer Gambling Week. You can head to the website. You can see on your screen there. Just Google Safer Gambling. There's lots of information and tools available to you. Do like, follow, and subscribe if you like all of our content. And a reminder that Matchbook are sponsoring the Craddockstown at Punchestown on Sunday. That's John Durkan Day. Looks a decent race as well. Now, we're recording this as decks are coming through, so we will keep abreast of those. That applies to John Durkan as well. And then we will come to the Matchbook Betting Exchange Craddockstown Chase at Punchestown on Sunday. More races at Punchestown being supported by Matchbook. Right, the Betfair Chase first of all. Deasy and I are in agreement, and that largely, Deasy, for me, is just because there's something in my gut that doesn't trust Grey Dawning. Now, I think better surface, a sounder surface, and a year on from last year, maybe he will go and win, but I thought he was skinny at 2.2 personally, and I wanted to take something at more of a price, and that was hands down, so I think might be able to dominate, and I think is better than he showed last time, where he was just a little bit rusty. What do you like about handstands, Dees?
Yeah, just what you said there. Like he had a very good season last year. I mean, he fell in his debut and he was beating the entry at the end of it. But in the middle of that, he had 3 good wins. Where he beat Resplendent Grey. He beat Django Bay in before Cheltenham in February. Like he looks a high class horse, and this, like, the Gold Cup has to be the aim with him. You'd forgive him his first run. That was over a short enough trip from. I just think he's always looked, even his novice hurdle season, he looked really classy. And he just, as you said, look, Grey Dawning only won one race last year. That was up at Kelso. He didn't really kick on from to the levels that he should have, and he's very skinny a price here. I just think at evens, like, he's well worth taking on. Not pushed in Haiti Calor, like, for all that he did very well last season. Like, he won 2 big handicaps at the end of the season. Like, he won the national chase, or at running off 135, Irish National off 141. Now he's running here off levels with proper Gold Cup horses, or horse that should be running to that level. I just think it's a big step up for him. Although I'd love to see him do well for the trainer and for British racing. It'd be good to have a few more Gold Cup horses coming from the UK. So yeah, it kind of came down to handstands. I just don't think it's going to be heavy enough for Royal Pagoi and Stellar Story, who I'm delighted to see him running over here. He's a horse that I've backed at big prices for the Gold Cup, but with the caveat that he's going to need it to be proper soft, heavy ground. He's a real stayer. If the rain gets into the ground early on tomorrow, I know there's supposed to be rain forecast, I'd be betting on him as well. But when it's good to soft, I just don't think that'll suit him perfectly. I think everything is in handstand's favour, and at 7.5, I think he's a decent bet for this.
So Andrew's going to make the case for Grey Dawning, which I'm looking forward to. I think the horse has got loads of talent. I don't know, did he see it out okay for you last year, Andrew? And what's going to be the difference this year?
Well, I think the difference is ground, Tom. For me, look, I know there's rain forecast, but it's not going to be anywhere near as heavy as it was last year. He was the best horse in the race last year, travelled through the race like the best horse, and just got outstayed by Royal Pagoi, who's a seasoned mudlark, in those types of conditions. I don't believe that's going to happen here. And I suppose, playing devil's advocate to you guys, I just don't believe any horse in this, bar Grey Dawning, has any degree of proper Grade 1 form. I think if you took out the King George run last year, he doesn't act right-handed. They won't ride him right-handed ever again. Dan Skelton has said that. You'd be looking at second in the Betfair Chase, beating Iroko, and then second at Aintree to Gaelic Warrior, who's a short enough price for the King George. That doesn't look like too bad in the main here. I can understand the case for Handstands as an improving horse. I'm sure we haven't seen the best of him just yet. And I know he'll come on leaps and bounds for that reappearance run. But at the same stage, he was still beaten by Resplendent Grey. Like, I cannot have that sort of performance in the back of my mind when he's now going into a BetFair chase. I can completely understand first time up, but still, it's Resplendent Grey, who's really a 3.5 mile plus horse. I love Hazy Colour. Was lucky enough to back him in the National Chase last year. Somehow then went against him in the Irish National for reasons I still can't know. But I don't think, I agree with Deasy there. I'm not sure he's potentially up to this Grade 1 level either. And it's just one of those things. I don't think the ground is soft enough for Royal Pagaille or for Stellar Story. And it just leads back to Grey Dawning. He's just a clear class act in the race. And as we've seen so far this season, when it comes to the big races and the big pots, the Skeltons don't seem to be missing.
Poor old Handstands beats a subsequent Grade 1 winner, Andrew, the ARCA winner, but doesn't have Grade 1 form. Brutal.
I just, like, have you looked at, go down the Silly Isles list of honour.
Poor old Royal Pagaille, 2-time winner of a Grade 1. Brutal.
List, like, you look down the Silly Isles novice chase winners of years gone by, and I can guarantee over the last 10-15 years you'd be able to name around 3.
Oh God, that's a good one. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few people watching this that love the game that will probably be able to name all 10, but like it's not necessarily one that I'd be. It's your first stop shop for a Grade 1 novice chase.
I've forgotten Ollie Murphy's winner. What was that called? I've forgotten the name of Gordon's winner. Yeah. Do you know what? I can't help. Deasy, you're on mute, but you're naming loads, aren't you?
Well, I have it up here in front of me, but it's like there was a horse called Bristol the Moy won it. He was all right. Deafy Desai, Lam Presse, Jerry Clam.
Jerry Colon, that's the one. What was Ollie's called?
Oh, Itchy Feet.
Itchy
Feet.
He wasn't a Grade 1 horse now. Look, as I say, that could be me being snippy, but at the same stage, I stand by the fact.
It is being snippy.
That's all right. Be snippy. That's okay.
Yeah, if Grey Dawning got beaten by Resplendent Grey, the two of you would be having an absolute field day.
Bag of shite. That's what I'd be saying. Absolute bag of shite. Yeah. No, I agree. He's the best horse in the race, Grey Dawning. This is something I don't. And the other thing I think just interesting about all this is, in the UK, we kick off our sort of Gold Cup horses over 3 mile, 1.5, offered on heavy ground, while the Irish are popping around 2.5 in the John Durkan. So just a much better idea, lads. Much better idea. Anyway, and they're better. Right, are we done on this? Anything else? Let's go to the 2 mile, 3 handicap hurdle at the start of the day. Oh, God, we agree again, Deasy. Cabral de Mathan. I just think his yard will have him absolutely ripe for this. I don't think there was any disgrace in the recent seconds he's had. He's had his win done and best treated horse in the race for me, Deasy.
Yeah, I started off with this and I was like, nah, he's running off 140 after finishing second 3 times last year, and the usual Paul Nicholas thing, he just did nothing to protect the mark. But like, it's all good form, in fairness, and there's nothing else in this really that just stood out to me. Even at the prices, the bigger prices, I couldn't see it with any of them. I don't like putting up favourites, but again, look, the Skeltons, this is worth 26 grand. Another handy few pound in the pocket for the Trainers' Championship. They'll be mopping these up for the rest of the season, and I'd say he'll be good to go.
I think he's crying out for the step up and trip. A couple of furlongs will really suit as well. Who are you with, Andrew?
Yeah, well, people will be throwing themselves at this for back in Florida Dreams, because I think a lot of people have had their fingers burnt on this horse. I'm not a massive backer of him. I just think that there is. I completely understand the case with Cabral de Mathan, probably the most likely winner. I got it down to between the two of them. The way he travels through his races, Florida Dreams, you think that this horse has to go in soon. He's a very well handicapped horse. Whether he actually wants to go and do it is probably between his own ears, unfortunately. But I thought maybe just between the two of them, you were getting a little bit of a bigger price on Florida Dreams. That's the main reason why I went for him, but completely can see the case for Cabral de Mathan.
All right, that's us done on that one. We're missing the graduation chase because you've got a short price favourite in there, and we don't want to have a bet in the race. So we'll skip past that. Stairs handicap hurdle 225. Goodness me, Dees, we agree again. I'll tell you what, Andrew, you can kick us off with ace of spades, and then we'll go to the bigger price.
Yeah, look, yet again, kind of broken record stuff, as we've been saying here with the Skeltons. They've been absolutely superb, targeting these races. 57 grand to the winner here. They've got two in it, ace of spades and Joy Machan. Joy Machan type of horse that probably would want a little bit of nicer ground in my book. Certainly did when he was trained by the Nolans. And ace of spades, he won on his reappearance over 2.5 miles, but all the vibes were that he might need that run. And yet he still went out and beat Moonbow, who was summer fit and a pretty progressive horse in his own right for Patrick Neville. He's only been raised £3 for that. I think he's got untapped potential over 3 miles. Only has ran over this trip the once. That was at Ayr last year when only beaten a head off 125. It wouldn't surprise me if there's still plenty more kind of leverage in this mark of 130 at staying trips. I've got an awful lot of respect for Machan too. I'm just a little bit worried when he won at October. Emma Lavelle, a slight streak trainer, and everything was winning in October. And thus far in November, everything is losing. So I'm just a little bit worried. As much as he'd be the horse I'd love to own out of all of them, that maybe he might be best caught yet again, maybe back in December when the yard might hit form again.
Yeah, I'd be a bit concerned about that. That was my starting point. Peter says you're in agreement with Tom and Deasy. Now you're worried about handstands. I agree with that. Well done. Thanks, Peter. Racing Lee's along. Well done, Lee. How are you? Good to see you along. Morning, lads. Go well, he says. Welcome along, everyone else. Right, we can make the case then for the third horse in succession we agree with, Dees, and that is Navajo Indy, who I just can't really work out why the horse is 12.0, Dees. Good second last time on reappearance, held form really well last year, still lightly raced, and for me, a completely unexposed stayer who I thought should really appreciate the distance. So I'd be pretty positive about a win and place bet here for Navajo Indy.
Yeah, you're spot on and everything there. And as well as that, Tom Simmons is at a 50% strike rate. He's 4 winners from his last 8 runners in November. So the horses are going well. Yeah, look, I mean, the horse that beat him the last day, Friendship, was like the whole world seemed to be on him. They were really, really fancied. He was smashed up at Chester and won the last day. And Navajo and him were well clear. They were racing from a long way out. All he did was stay. It should be hard fit for this. I think he's as you said, no win place bet at 12.0. It's a nice one to have on side, I think.
Yeah, we're in agreement again, frighteningly. We're not in the 335 though. We've done the Betfair chase already. If you're just joining us, we kicked off with that 3 mile, 1 furlong handicap chase. I'll kick off with Whistle Stop Tour because it comes with caveats, and I'm worried. You know, this is a horse who I was really excited about going into the Cheltenham Festival for the Ultima, and then of course the stable companion won the race. He didn't even make it round that day. He was disappointing at Perth, and then and was in consecutive runs there. It was definitely better at Ayr last time, and I don't know. He needs something to bring about the difference, but it could just be that it was cheap pieces last time that made a little bit of difference. They replaced the blinkers that went on, but it was a much better run. It may have been because it was back over hurdles, but I do think he's a well-treated horse. Conditions should be absolutely spot on, and yeah, I think he's a lot better than his mark. It's just he's gone off the boil a little bit, but there was just enough juice left in the price for me to want to side with him at 7.5, where you can get in win and place money, because I do think he could be the best treated horse in the race. So I'll have one last go on Whistle Stop Tour. Andrew.
Yeah, I haven't really reinvented the wheel here, unfortunately, but I've landed on Show Minucci for Sam Thomas, a trainer that can do very little wrong at the moment. Has started the season flying, as he often does, with his select bunch of runners, and he's got plenty of chances this weekend. This is a really nice horse. He's been a bit of a struggle to keep sound. He did a tendon after he won Maiden Hurdle at Chepstow. But returned to beat Lunar Discovery and Butch back in February this year in a novice chase. That was his only run last season. But speaking to Sam Thomas quite recently for Racing TV, it wasn't really an issue last year. He just couldn't really get the ground he wanted. He wants a bit of a dig. He believes that this horse has a huge chance in the Welsh National, and this is a stepping stone to that race. Whether that means that maybe I'm a little bit worried that he may come on for the run, perhaps so, but it wouldn't surprise me if Sam Thomas has this horse well fit. He's very good with getting these horses ready first time out. Charlie Deutsch takes the ride because Dylan Johnson is down riding Celtic Dino in the Ascot Hurdle. But that, as we've seen last year with Katate Dory, is clearly no issue either. And I just feel of all of these horses, he's the one with so much upside in the potential. I know he's a really lightly raced horse. There's still mileage of 135. Maybe it won't be tomorrow, but I'm going to back it that it is.
All right, that's Show Minucci for you. And Deasy, bigger price, Duke of Deception.
Duke of Deception, yeah. I'd say, there's a good chance that by the time this race is run over, it's going to be soft ground at Haydock. Like there is rain forecast overnight tomorrow, so that was something I kind of took into account. This time last year, Duke of Deception was second favourite for the Berkshire National at Ascot, and he pulled up in that. He made a bad mistake on the race, but over the rest of the season, he finished third, second, and won on his final race of the season at Haydock. At Haydock itself, he has 2 wins and a second. It's a good course form. Over staying distance as well. He's won over 3 mile 1.5 and 3 mile 4. He can finish second over 3 mile 4.5. I couldn't figure out why he was the price he was. Maybe because the yard is running quite cold. They've had no winners now in the last 19. But the Saturday horses are doing all right for them, and I think that's always a good sign. If the Gabriel ran a very good race there last week. So I'll hope that the yard isn't too much out of form that it's going to affect him. And at 13.0, I think he's a nice win place bet in this, because you'll be getting 3 places definitely, maybe 4 and the exchange as well. So yeah, I think it's good to keep him on side, especially with the course form.
All right, we move on to the 130 Ascot, the 1965 chase. Look, I was originally sitting this out because Ile Francais just complicated it too much for me, because I'm not sure you know necessarily what you're going to get. I think there's a chance he could go and boss this and win it comfortably, and I also think there's a chance he could potentially bomb out, but he's not going to be travelling because he's with Tom George. Although he always seemed to travel pretty well in the past, but he bombed out at Cheltenham. But he clearly goes right-handed very well. He should get a chance to boss this, and he's dropping into a grade 2. He's carrying 11.4. Django Bay's got to give him £3, and Pic Dory's got to give him £6. I mean, Christ, this is he's too big. He's just too big. He's just too big. 3.25. That's just far too big. And if you were looking to trade in the run, that you might well be able to get out as well. I would definitely keep that. There's every chance he goes even money at some point.
I'm not sure, Tom, though, to be fair. Like, you're going against Django Bay despite telling me the Silly Isles was the best piece of novice chase form all year. What's going on?
I'm aware of that. But this is Ile Francais.
We even got a screenshot of the form up. How good it was.
I think Django Bay is a decent horse. But Ile Francais won a Courtois start and flipping nearly won a King George.
On a nice flat track.
I set myself up for that, didn't I? Shit.
On a nice flat track.
Would you be with or against Andrew? I'm really interested. Would you be? And do you think it's he either bombs out or he wins?
He tends to be that way. I couldn't have him in the slightest, to be honest. The only thing for me, I was quite close to having Pic Dory in this race, just because I think it's his home track sort of thing. The only thing is that Ile Francais is a bit of a spoiler to Pic Dory. And quite a lot of the time at Ascot, Pic Dory has got it kind of relatively free on the front end. And whether that then sets it up for Django Bay, I'm not sure. But there was kind of too many imponderables. But the one thing I wouldn't have been doing was backing Ile Francais.
Django Bay can't win. He won an Arkle that absolutely fell apart. I think I think getting weight at that price, you've got to be with Ile Francais, because there's a chance you're sitting there going, well, that was fun. He nearly won a King George. Like, I think going this way around, I think you got to. Anyway, Dees, you're not. You're going the other way.
Yeah. When I sat down and looked at this, the first thing I thought is like, this is a prep run for the King George for three of them. Probably Gidley Park, Django Boy, and Ile Francais. This is just the starting point. Whereas this is Pictori's Gold Cup. This is his be all and end all. Like, he's the only one that will be 100% out to win this. And I just don't trust Ile Francais. I think, like, if he was nailed on for this, he'd be a lot shorter. He's 3.25. Like, he's actually a big enough price for a horse. But I think a lot of it is just based on that Coto Star win. He ran well in the King George last year, but look at the end of last season, he was beaten in a listed race by Aston Martini, that really good Nicky Henderson hurdler. So he's just a bit windy. I couldn't be having him again. Django Bay, he probably, I know he won the Arkle, but I'd say he went further. And Gidley Park is probably he was the other one he was the closest I was to a bet besides Pictori, but I just said, look, small bet in Pictori, you're going to get a good run for your money, and he could easily win. And I could also see Ile Francais just bombing out, hitting third, going off too fast, whatever. So I'd play him, because I think you'll be getting odds on. You might be getting 1.7, 1.8. I'm not too sure now at the moment. I didn't see it, but
don't you want to place him in the run, Dees?
I don't know if the market will be there in the run.
Okay, good point. Right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
Maybe. I don't. I'll be looking at the place markets in running. So, but yeah,
he will trade shorter, won't he?
He probably will, yeah, but how much shorter? Like, it's going to be him and Pictori up there, and Django Bay sit out the back. Gidley Park will probably be handy. Master Chewy could go forward as well. So, yeah, that was my thinking. This is going to be a real safe for gambling race, that if you have to have a small minimum stakes and Pictori just for the three in a row. But
Peter says the ground could be too quick for He Is France. The thing is, Peter, is he wants good ground. That's the thing. Like, he does. He won a Coto Star on good ground, and he was just second in a King George on good ground. And he bleeds in France at Oitoy with the big fences on more testing ground. He wants good ground, in my opinion. Okay, good.
He didn't really handle the undulations at Cheltenham either. He didn't really handle the undulations at Cheltenham either. I mean, he's going to be...
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He hated it.
Yeah, so I don't know.
He looked up the hill and pooped his pants, I'm afraid. That's what happened. But this I'm hoping is going to be different. Anyway. Yeah. All right, on we go. The Berkshire National Handicap Chase. I can't read. 205. This is 3 different horses going up. ABW, over to you first of all.
Yeah, taking one at a bit of a chance here, Tom. Back man of the people for Fergal O'Brien and Johnny Burke. I think you can get 19.0. One of those horses at the moment, you'd look at the last 3 runs and go, there hasn't been almost a semblance of life there, but he's dropping down. He seems to always operate when he gets down to this type of mark in the low 130s, off 133, which was his last winning mark. He was 5th in the Kim Muir of 135, which wasn't a bad run either earlier this year. He does have to bounce back from a pretty ordinary run last time out behind 3-card Bragg in a pretty hot handicap chase, to be fair to it, at Cheltenham at the October meeting. I don't think, as much as this is a big prize, I don't think this race is in any way near that same level of standard, as he is obviously one of the top weights in this. But I just think, on the basis of the fact that you're getting a big price about a horse that is dropping to a winning mark, I suppose you do have to take it on trust. He's 10 years old. Maybe he's just on the decline. But there was a few in here at the top of the market. I'm still a little bit iffy about how Gavin Cromwell's horses are running. I know they've run okay this week, but plenty of them are going to hit in the crossbar without winning a spur of the moment. Quite short in there. Our Power, I don't know whether he wants the real extreme trip of this. Rock My Way potentially does, but doesn't get his head in front too often. So there's a few at the top I'd like to take on, and Man of the People was the one I came on at a price.
Deasy, who are you with?
I've two for this now because I couldn't let Rock My Way go on back. I know he's the favourite, but I think this is just the perfect conditions for him. He needs 3.5 miles, 4 miles. He needs a staying trip. The Tizards are absolutely flying it. He's getting in here now with a nice kind of 11.3, nice middleweight, because our power is there keeping them all, keeping the weights down. The last race would have just put him, that was just a little spin around from that, would have put him spot on. Ground was fine. He's had his win done. I think there's loads in his favour, and like this could be the one race of the season that he wins. So again, look, short price, but I had to put him up, for all that I don't love putting up favourites in marathon handicap chases. But anyway, and the other one then is Lord Accord for Neil Mulholland. He arrives in here. This will be his 6th run of the season. He started off in June. He's been running over marathon trips all summer. But he won. He got his first win of the season last time out at Fontwell, beating Largy Port there a couple of weeks ago. Look, he's just going to be hard fit for this. This is his trip. I actually prefer backing older horses in marathons like this, because they're just, they have the miles in the clock. They've proven stamina. Like he's a decent enough horse, I think, over the years, and he's 14.0, so he's a win place bet in a race where you definitely get 4 places on the Matchbook Exchange. So you could have a small win bet in him, back him in the 4-place market as well.
Our chance Regard for a yard that are going along really well, and Joe Anderson's in great nick as well, riding really well for the yard and elsewhere. This is the sort of distance he wants. Wind Surgery really helped the horse a couple of starts ago, when he then came out and won at Haydock over a marathon trip, backed it up with a good run at Cheltenham, and then had his win done, and that was his first run of the season at Cheltenham, which might just find him out a bit. I think returning to this type of track is going to see him to better effect. He's one going this way around, and he's still not exactly exposed as a stayer of marathon distances. So Regard at 7.0 I thought was a solid win place bet. Okay, the Ascot Hurdle, Dees and I in agreement again. She just wins, doesn't she, Dees?
Yeah, like I cannot get over the price she is. Texting Matt Toombs about this last night. Like, she should be 1.67. She should be.
Why isn't she Woodoo? Why is she?
I don't know. I look at fairness now. Celtic Dino
2.25. Sorry.
Yeah, Celtic Dino. His Alexi has boosted his form unbelievably well, and what a horse said, Altibelli has a good chance. I don't know why she's 2.25. That's why she has to be the bet of the weekend. She won't be that price on Saturday, I hope. So get stuck in.
Andrew?
See, maybe it's the cynical side of me, but I'd be almost looking at it going, why is she 2.25? Like, but like in that respect, like I do kind of agree with Dees there. Like, this horse, like on the Lossiemouth form, should be long odds on, but yet do we not know something?
But this is the case that this is the difficult value clause, isn't it? Because this was the thing that Dees was saying about Le Francais as well. It's like, you're looking at a price going, well, that tells you X, Y, Z. But then if you just boil it down to the race and the horse, at what point do you go, that's too big? I don't know. I'm just, I'm sort of.
Is it because she might have been declared as well on Sunday? Did that come into it? Was she entered into Morgana?
She may have. She was, I think. Yeah, but look, as I say, I might be foolish taking her on. I suppose there's a small, ever so small doubt in the back of my mind, and probably more curious than anything to see how Celtic Dino can go in a race like this, stepping up in trip. He's just a much, much better horse on decent ground. So I'm hoping the rain does stay away from Ascot. I think he's got the measure of beating a horse like Potter's Charm. and the rest of the field for that matter. It's just a case of I suppose how fit Woodoo is and how straight she is first time out. She came back from a relative absence to win the Martin Pipe head and chest, so there shouldn't be any real issues freshness wise. But maybe, I suppose, the one thing you're maybe taking her on with is that Gordon might have just one day in mind at the Mayor's Hurdle in March, and maybe it'll be a slowly approach this year. But slightly picking holes in something that may not have any holes to pick in. But I'm curious as to why she's the price she is.
Yeah, she was in the Dirk and the Dan Hussey, our producer, as times. Maybe it's that, but yeah, take the point. It's interesting, but I think it's one you want to get after. Yes. Wait. Are you happy? You made your case, Andrew, for Celtic Dino?
Yeah, I think he's just, Dees mentioned there, that Welsh champion hurdle form couldn't look any better now with Alexi. And I know Alexi has improved an awful lot for that run, and you can't take that just completely at base value. But I think it does go to show how good this horse can be on good ground. And I think if you went through his form throughout his career and took out anything that he ran on soft ground in, you'd think this horse is pretty smart. And I think he's well worth his place in this type of race, and I'll be interested to see how high he can kind of scale up the ranks now.
3:15 then is the 2 mile handicap chase. 2 mile 1 even. Dees, we agree again with a horse who, I mean, for me it was, can I see Gabriel's Getaway getting past Teddy Blue? And with a couple of likely bits of pace on, I thought I just about could. I just thought there was too much between them at the prices. 8.5 Gabriel's Getaway for me, and you were in agreement.
Yeah, the weekend he finished second, and Anthony Honeyball at some weekend they were really in good form, and I think he would have won that race if he hadn't. Was it the second last he went through? He absolutely went through one of the fences anyway in the running, and that killed his momentum. The other thing to note is that Rex Dingle is getting down to 10.4 for this, and his lowest weight is 10.2. He's been down to 10.4 twice in the last fortnight. Well, 10.3. One was for Gustavian in the Badger Bears. He won. And the other race, that's gone off that was before. Oh yeah, Fortune Dance from Fontville. It was again for Chris Gordon. If he does the low weights, generally for a good reason. So I think that's an encouraging one. But I would be actually a bit stronger on Boot Hill, to be honest. I think he's far too big a price. I know he's carrying top weight, but I don't think that'll matter too much. That would matter if he was going over 3.5 miles. I don't think it'll matter on this. He had to go at top level last year, just wasn't good enough for that. But he should be. I think he should be well able to give these horses weight over this course and distance. And at 11.0, I think he's a cracking bet for this.
Okay, Andrew, who are you with finally?
Yeah, a bit of a glutton for punishment on JPR1, to be honest. I've got my fingers burned too many times on this horse, but I just can't let him go unbacked with the way Tizard's horses are running at the moment. It was a slightly listless run in the Haldon Gold Cup, which kind of came out of nowhere. I thought the setup of that race would suit him, but Tissalas kind of got loose on the front end. It was an odd race to watch. I'm hoping he can come forward for that. He's only £2 higher than when he won the Haldon Gold Cup this time last year. He's got some really good, grade 1, grade 2 form in the book, and he's back in a handicap here. I know he has to carry a lot of weight of a mark of 151, but this may be now, a top range handicap is where he's going to be seen to best effect. He'll get a strong pace to aim at. He's usually, touch wood, a very good jumper as well, and probably more account of trainer form as well coming into the argument that just at the moment Joe Tizard can seemingly not train a loser. So I'm giving JPR one more chance on that basis.
Okay, move on to the Morgiana now. Just for accuracy's sake, Woodoo wasn't in the Morgiana but was in the Hassan's Grace. Anyway, we could just clear that up for you. We're not putting up an official selection here, but just as a wider discussion, Lossiemouth at 1.5. Like, is there a reason anybody doesn't have a strong opinion on the race, or is she confusing things for anyone?
it's just it's
Don't all
turned
go at
into
once, lads. Don't all jump in.
like when you saw the race on Tuesday or Wednesday, you were thinking this is really exciting, and I'd have told you the only horse of Willie's that won't run will be Lossiemouth, and here we are. Near on the only one that does run is Lossiemouth, and the rest of them are gone. The only thing I'm thinking is I don't buy. I see on Twitter and X and stuff like that people are saying, oh well, this is great. Amsterdam is going to go over for the fighting fifth. I would say something's wrong with him, to be honest. I can't imagine that he's suddenly just not running in this race.
Because he told us on Racing TV that he was going to go, and this was in the middle of October. He said Amsterdam will go for the fighting fifth, and then that obviously changed. It's just, it's difficult.
I just don't buy that they would have thought this was the main target, and then suddenly. And if you just read between the lines, I think Paul Townend was interviewed yesterday about the race, and he went, "Oh, Lossiemouth's a great super sub." I don't think you'd say that about a horse if the horse is running next week, would you?
No, agreed. All right, Joe, anything to say, Deasy, or do you want to move on?
No, not really.
Good. Fine. Let's kick on. The MacBook Zero long shot then, reminder that goes live an hour before each race. You're most likely to get best odds because there's zero margin and zero commission. Mine's Navajo Indy, the 335 at Haydock, DC.
Mine is Lord Accord in the Berkshire National.
And Andrew.
Yeah, I'm taking on these. Unfortunately, I'm man of the people in the same race.
And then best lays, reminder, place lay for Ile Francais for DC. Imagine if that horse finishes second and we both get done.
That's exactly what will happen, to be honest.
Yeah. £5 money back as best bet Saturday treble. Reminder, you stick a fiver on this, it's risk-free. If it doesn't win, then you get your fiver back. If it does, then happy days. That's for new and existing customers. Mine's Cabral du Mathan in the 115 at Haydock, DC.
Mine is Woodhoo in the 240 Ascot.
And Andrew.
Show Minucci for me in the 3-1. I think it's the 335 at Haydock.
All right, the Matchbook Betting Exchange Craddockstown now looks a really, really good race. I'm sitting it out. It was a little too tricky for me, but you guys have got some selections in there. And the great news is that we've got 5 going to post in it with Westport Cove Fleur in the Park, Relief Duties, Kilbarry Saint and Qualameter. DC, never heard of your horse.
Yeah, who the fuck is Fleur in the Park? He is the favourite for the Craddockstown, the Matchbook Betting Exchange Craddockstown Novice Chase. Tom, I'll have you know. He is. If you just have a look at his form last year, he gave kind of came on my radar. He gave the Ella Clay a big fright over 2.5 miles on soft ground in Navan in a hurdle race. Was just beaten. He finished off the season running over 3 miles, finishing behind Jasmine DeVoe at Fairy House. He had been tipping away for the Martin Pipe hurdle. I thought that would have been a good target for him at the festival. Didn't run. He was out early this season. He was beaten by Tap and to Go. First time out over 2.5 miles of Gorham. But the last day at Wexford, he absolutely destroyed Tully Hill, who hasn't kicked on, I suppose, as much as he should have. But he was. They got racing a long way out in that race, and Fleur in the Park beat him by 8 lengths. His jumping was excellent. He's the kind of horse that I thought might go a bit under the radar because he's not from a superstar stable, but Andy Slattery is a very good trainer. Glad to see him get a decent horse like this. I couldn't be having Westport Cove. I know he seems to have figured out how to win, but he's just too inconsistent and relieve the duties again. Good horse, but if the ground, as Andrew mentioned, this if the ground is soft to heavy, which it almost certainly will be, it's not going to suit him. So I think Fleur in the Park is a very solid favourite for this.
Andrew, you're with a bigger price.
Yeah, I can't knock that case, to be honest. I think Fleur in the Park will take a lot of beating. I just thought Kilbarry Saint at the prices was too big. She's a consistent mare. She's ran some good races over fences. She's only a couple of lengths behind Only by Night at Exeter last year. Over 2-1. She does usually get campaigned over further than this, but I think with Westport Cove in there, even Fleur in the Park relieved of duties, horses that do tend to go forward, especially Westport Cove. So there should be a good pace on here. And sometimes the Craddockstown can lean itself to odd results. So I'm hoping there might be a little bit of a boil over here, more of a case of, I agree, I think relief to duties will need nicer ground. I think Westport Cove's a bit of a nutter, and Qualamita doesn't want to win. So it's between Fleur in the Park and Kilbarry Saint, and I suppose I'm going to side with the one that's around 10 times the price.
Yeah, get going with a bigger price, but a race has been won by some good horses in the past, and hopefully more of the same. Sizing John took it a few years ago. Now good that horse turned out to be. All right, moving on to a really deep renewal of the John Durkan, which we weren't necessarily expecting. I mean, I say deep, we've got 11 in there, and it looks as though Factor File is set to be about 2.0 currently, and much of that is because you've got Gaelic Warrior in there as, you know, a stable companion, but a real danger because some of those are going to be campaigned over further. We know that. I mean, I know the way you're thinking. You can't imagine he's necessarily going to win over this trip. Same to Nick Rocket and Grange Clare West. But Factor File, fast or slow, Gaelic Warrior. Andrew, this is interesting.
It's a class race, yeah. Now, a fair few of these potentially will have obviously bigger and better things down the line to look forward to. But the presence of Gaelic Warriors is the real spoiler here. I thought Factor File is a pretty rock solid favourite. All of his form, 2.5 miles, this type of ground would lead him to think that, you know, he's just the most likely winner. But Gaelic Warriors a brilliant horse when he's on song. And I suppose if you take the view that just Leopardstown isn't his course, he's a pretty brilliant horse almost everywhere else. That being said, I do think you look at last year's race, which was just as strong, just as much depth, and you look at you can't get that Ryanair Chase win out of your mind really when thinking of Factor File. He was so good, and you know sometimes those horses, they go to Punchestown, they run poor. He ran an absolutely crap race behind Marine Nationale. Very easy to excuse that. I'm sure he won't be completely 100% cherry ripe, but he'll be ready to go. And I'd say he's Mullins' stable selected. So Factor File for me, but it's a deep race and very interesting to see how a few of these end up taking to it in behind.
Deasy.
It's an unbelievable race. I thought a few of them come out. I was looking at Factor File yesterday, and I was like, good price now for this. Like, but when decks come out, he'll probably be 1.8 or less. So it's good that it's held up. Like I think this is just out of them all. You look at them all, nearly all of them need further. Like there isn't the hope that I know the way you're thinking, and Noya Maximus are going to be off and going for this. They are just out for the run and to start their season. Gaelic Warrior, I think he would for him to be effective over. I think he'd need it completely bottomless. I don't think it'll be heavy enough for him, and he's kind of making the price then for Factor File, who I think is just at this distance. He's an intermediate distance horse. Not a hope he'll be in the Gold Cup. I think he's like backing him for the Ryanair. No, is probably a sensible investment for all that he's a sharp price, because that's 100% where he'll end up and he'll win it again. Good to see Fast or Slow back. I think he could challenge, but I just think Factor File is different level at 2.5 miles and this kind of ground. So yeah, I'm strong on him.
They've both still got to turn up as well. We have been here before, but hopefully even though they're both declared, they both line up. In particular, those two at the top, Gaelic Warrior and Factor File. If pushed, I'd be in agreement with you guys, but I'm going to sit it out. It's going to be a heck of an hour's racing on Sunday with that John Durkan and the Matchbook Betting Exchange Craddockstown as well. So tune into Racing TV for that. You can see all the action over there. If you're in Ireland, probably on RTE, isn't it? I don't know. Is it not on a Sunday? It will be. There you go.
Will be, yeah.
RTE.
RTE2.
Andrew, thank you. Micheál, thank you. Hope you've enjoyed that. And we've pointed you in the way of some winners. Head to insights.matchbook.com for a recap of all of our selections. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.